Marriage is a sanctuary where two souls learn the art of giving, understanding, and honoring one another. In this sacred, one of the greatest gifts a woman can offer her husband is respect, not because he demands it, but because every man's heart is wired to feel dignity through it. Respect is not silence, fear, or blind agreement. It is the gentle acknowledgement of his efforts, the way you speak to him, the trust you place in him, and the space you create for him to lead with kindness. When a man feels respected, he becomes softer, more giving, more emotionally available, and more protective of the relationship. But when he feels belittled, dismissed, or constantly compared, he withdraws not out of pride, but out of pain. Respect is the oxygen for a man's emotional world. Just as affection nourishes a woman, respect strengthens a man. A marriage flourishes when a woman speaks to her husband with dignity, values his perspective, honors his commitment, and believes in his abilities. Respect does not mean ignoring faults. It means correcting with gentleness, disagreeing with grace, and holding him accountable without crushing him. In a world that constantly pressures men to prove themselves, home should be the place where a man feels seen, valued, and uplifted, and when respect flows naturally, love deepens, trust becomes stronger, and the relationship grows into a partnership that thrives with peace, connection, and emotional safety. Respect is the emotional oxygen men need to feel valued and connected. It is the quiet force that strengthens a man's heart and allows him to show up fully in his marriage, not just as a partner, but as a protector, a provider, and a companion. When a man feels respected by the woman he loves, something inside him softens, opens, and awakens. He feels seen. He feels trusted who he is, not just what he does, matters. Respect gives him the confidence to lead with kindness, to express vulnerability without fear of being dismissed, and to give love more freely. But when respect is absent, even if love exists, a deep emotional suffocation takes place. A man might continue to live, work, and fulfill responsibilities, but inwardly he begins to wither. He becomes quieter, distant, or defensive, not because he does not care, but because he is trying to protect the last pieces of his dignity from being chipped away. Respect does not mean plain placing a man on a pedestal or agreeing with everything he says. It is not obedience. It is not silence. It is the decision to speak with dignity, even in disagreement. It is choosing words that uplift rather than words that wound. It is trusting his intentions, even when his actions are imperfect. It is acknowledging his efforts, even when life makes them invisible. Respect is not about ignoring shortcomings. It is about addressing them with gentleness and wisdom so that correction becomes growth rather than humiliation. In a world where men are constantly pressured to perform, compete, and succeed, many carry silent battles within themselves, insecurities, fears, and unspoken burdens they rarely share. When a man comes home to a woman who respects him, he finds peace. He finds restoration. He finds the courage to keep moving. Her respect becomes the emotional shelter that heals what the world tires. And this does not mean she must praise him endlessly or avoid honest conversations. Respect is built through tone, consistency, trust, and emotional grace. It appears in the way she listens without cutting him down. It shows in the way she disagrees without attacking his character. It shines in the way she supports his decisions while also offering her wisdom. When a woman withholds respect, especially through criticism, sarcasm, or comparison, she may not realize how deeply it injures him. Men are often taught to hide their pain, so instead of expressing hurt, they shut down or respond with anger. But beneath the reaction is usually a heart longing for acknowledgement. A man does not need perfection from his partner. He needs kindness. He needs belief. He needs reassurance that even when he falls short, he is still worthy of honor in her eyes. And this honor, this simple yet profound respect, becomes the soil where love grows stronger. Respect also has the power to transform the dynamics of a marriage. When a man feels honored, he naturally becomes more giving. His affection increases. His patience expands. His willingness to communicate deepens. He becomes emotionally safer, more open, and more attentive to his wife's needs. Respect inspires reciprocity. Just as women flourish when loved tenderly, men flourish when treated with dignity. And this mutual nourishment becomes the foundation of a marriage that thrives. Respect is not just an action, it is an attitude. It is the posture of recognizing a man's humanity, complete with strengths, weaknesses, dreams, and flaws, and treating him with consistent dignity. It is the choice to create a relationship where he feels connected not through fear, but through appreciation. When respect fills the marriage, love grows effortlessly, trust becomes unshakable, and both hearts find the connection they were designed to share. A respectful tone and choice of words can open a man's heart more than criticism ever will. The way we speak to someone we love becomes the atmosphere in which that love either grows or slowly withers. For a man, words carry a unique emotional weight. They can build him, strengthen him, inspire him, or they can cut deeply, leaving wounds that silence his heart. A man may forget many things in life, but he rarely forgets how his partner speaks to whom. Respectful communication is not about suppressing emotions or hiding disappointment. It is about delivering truth with gentleness, honesty with compassion, and correction without humiliation. When a woman chooses a tone that honors rather than a tuxedo, she creates a safe space where her husband can open up instead of shutting down. She allows him to step into vulnerability without feeling weak or diminished. Men often experience criticism differently than women. While women may process criticism as feedback, men often interpret it as a judgment of their worth or their ability to lead, protect, or provide. A harsh tone can make him defensive, distant, or withdrawn, even if he cares deeply. But a respectful tone, one that shows understanding, patience, and emotional wisdom, invites him into conversation rather than conflict. It softens his heart, encourages him to listen, and makes him want to respond with sincerity and openness. Respectful words are like keys that unlock emotional doors he rarely opens for anyone else. A respectful tone doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means approaching them with intention. Instead of saying, "You never listen," or "You always mess things up," a woman might say, "I feel unheard, and I really want us to work through this together." This small shift changes the entire emotional landscape. It removes accusation and replaces it with partnership. Respectful communication turns a potential argument into a moment of connection. It allows the man to hear the message without feeling attacked. And when a man feels safe in communication, he becomes more willing to change, to reflect, and to step up. Words spoken with respect nourish a man's self-esteem. They remind him that he has value in the eyes of the woman he loves. They assure him that even when there is disappointment, it doesn't erase his worth. This emotional reassurance is not about ego. It is about the deep human need to feel appreciated and understood. A man who feels respected at home becomes more grounded, more confident, and more emotionally generous. He returns that respect in the form of affection, patience, and care. The heart that feels safe naturally becomes more loving. On the other hand, constant criticism, sarcasm, or belittling erodes the emotional bond between partners. It creates a painful distance where connection once lived. A man may stop sharing his feelings not because he has none, but because he fears how his words will be received. He may stop trying not because he doesn't want to, but because he feels nothing he does will ever be enough. This emotional retreat is often misunderstood as carelessness, when in reality it is unexpressed hurt. Respectful communication is a skill of the heart. It requires mindfulness, taking a breath before speaking, choosing words that heal instead of harm, expressing needs without attacking character. It requires the humility to remember that tone can turn truth into a blessing or a weapon. And it requires the wisdom to understand that respect is not a reward for perfection, but a foundation for partnership. When a woman speaks with respect, she becomes the one his heart trusts most deeply. Her words gain power. Her guidance carries weight. Her voice becomes the place he returns to for comfort, clarity, and connection. And slowly, the home becomes a sanctuary where love is not fought for, but naturally grows, nurtured by the simple, profound gift of speaking with dignity, grace, and respect. Belittling or comparing a husband weakens intimacy and damages trust. These actions may seem small in the moment, a quick remark, a careless comment, a comparison made in frustration, but to the heart of a man, they can feel like deep emotional. When a woman belittles her husband, even unintentionally, she chips away at the sense of dignity that allows him to love wholeheartedly. A man may appear strong on the outside, but inside he feels deeply when his worth is questioned. He may not cry, he may not speak, he may not argue, but he withdraws. And every withdrawal creates a distance in the marriage that becomes harder to bridge over time. Belittling tells him, "You're not enough," and for a man who wants nothing more than and to be enough in the eyes of the woman he loves, that message is devastating. Comparison is equally damaging. When a wife compares her husband to other men, even softly, even jokingly, she plants seeds of inadequacy in his heart. Whether she compares him to someone else's success, someone else's behavior, or someone else's ability, it creates a silent pressure that suffocates the relationship. What she means as motivation, he hears as failure. Even the smallest comparison sends a message: someone else is better than you. And no man thrives under the shadow of being measured against another. A comparison doesn't inspire him, it wounds him. It does not push him to improve. It pushes him away. It does not strengthen the marriage. It weakens every bond that trust rests upon. Intimacy, whether emotional or physical, is built on safety, the safety of being accepted for who you are, even while growing into who you want to be. When belittling or comparison enters the relationship, that safety breaks. A husband who feels judged loses the ability to open his heart. He becomes guarded, hesitant, and tense. He stops expressing vulnerability because vulnerability requires trust, and trust cannot survive where there is constant criticism or comparison. A marriage thrives when both partners feel valued, but it slowly suffocates when one partner feels like they are constantly coming up short. Many women do not belittle or compare to be cruel. Often, they are tired, frustrated, or longing for change. Sometimes they speak from emotional pain, not realizing the impact of their words. But the intention does not erase the effect. A man's heart responds more to tone than to logic, more to how something is said than why it is said. Belittling tones, sarcastic remarks, harsh reminders, and comparisons might be expressions of stress, but they create emotional wounds that linger long after the moment has passed. Over time, these wounds form walls. Walls that shut down communication, walls that replace closeness with tension, walls that make love feel heavy instead of healing. On the other hand, when a husband feels valued, he naturally becomes more loving, more attentive, and more responsible. Men rise when they feel respected. They blossom when appreciated. They give more when they feel seen. A wife who chooses encouragement instead of comparison and gentleness instead of belittling ignites a beautiful transformation. Her words become a place of peace for him. Her support becomes his strength. Her belief in him becomes the fuel that inspires him to grow. He stops fearing failure and starts embracing effort because he knows he is supported, not judged. Avoiding belittling and comparison doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means addressing them with compassion. It means saying, "I believe in you," even when discussing something that needs improvement. It means using words that guide rather than words that crush. It means creating a partnership where both can grow without feeling diminished. The strongest marriages are not built by perfect people, but by partners who protect each other's dignity even in difficult moments. In the end, every marriage needs two things to survive: love and respect. Love makes the heart soften, but respect makes the heart safe. When a woman shields her husband from belittling and comparison, she shields her marriage from emotional erosion. She becomes the one place in his world where he never has to compete, never has to prove, never has to fear being less than. And that kind of safety becomes the foundation for a love that lasts, deepens, and continues to grow with time. Respect does not ignore faults. It does not pretend they don't exist, nor does it blind itself to what needs improvement. Respect shapes the calls how those faults are addressed, with wisdom, gentleness, and compassion. True respect is not. It is sincerity delivered with dignity. It is the ability to see someone's imperfections without using them as weapons. In a marriage, pointing out faults harshly or with humiliation only creates defensiveness and distance, but addressing them with calmness and emotional intelligence creates openness and growth. Respect means understanding that everyone is flawed, including ourselves, and choosing to build the relationship rather than break the person. It means remembering that your partner's mistakes do not erase their worth and that correction can be a form of care when it comes from love instead of frustration. When a woman speaks about a husband's faults respectfully, she is not enabling bad habits. She is guiding with tenderness. She is saying, I want us to be better, rather than, you're not good enough. That difference changes everything. The first inspires everything. The second crushes the desire to try. Respect acknowledges reality without turning it into condemnation. It allows for accountability but protects dignity. A husband may make mistakes. He may forget, fall, fail, or misjudge. But reminding him of his shortcomings in a way that attacks his character destroys trust. Respectful communication, however, helps him want to improve because he feels supported, not shamed. Respect also understands timing. It knows that correction offered in anger rarely leads to transformation, but correction offered with patience invites understanding. Respect is the emotional wisdom to pause, breathe, and choose words that heal instead of harm. It is the recognition that what you say may be true, but it's how you say it determines whether it will be received or rejected. A wife who corrects respectfully becomes someone her husband listens to deeply, not someone he fears or avoids. Her guidance becomes meaningful because it comes from a place of calm truth rather than emotional explosion. Respect doesn't hide hurt either. It doesn't pretend everything is fine. It simply expresses hurt in a way that nurtures connection instead of breaking it. It sounds like, this made me feel unseen, rather than, of you always ruin everything. Respect avoids absolute statements that define a person by their worst moment. It allows couples to face problems as a team instead of turning against each other. It says, we can fix this, instead of, you are the problem. And this shift, from accusation to partnership, builds a foundation of trust that makes change possible. When faults are addressed respectfully, a marriage becomes a place of growth rather than tension. A man who is corrected with dignity becomes more receptive. He feels safe enough to admit mistakes and brave enough to work on them. Respect unlocks honesty because it removes the fear of judgment. It creates emotional safety, allowing both partners to be vulnerable without feeling attacked. Over time, this gentle accountability strengthens the bond and deepens the connection, making the relationship feel like a space where both can evolve without losing love. Respect does not ignore faults because ignoring them leads to resentment. It allows problems to grow silently until they become too heavy for the relationship to carry. True respect is not passive, it is active care. It gives space for improvement, forgiveness, and renewal. It does not demand perfection, but it encourages betterment. It holds a mirror with kindness, not criticism. In marriage, respect becomes the language through which difficult truths are spoken. It teaches that faults are not barriers but opportunities to become stronger as a couple. When partners speak with respect, even about painful issues, they protect the emotional bond that holds the marriage together. And through this gentle, patient, dignified approach, both hearts grow, trust deepens, and love becomes something resilient, something able to endure mistakes, heal wounds, and rise even stronger than before. When a man feels honored at home, he becomes more loving, giving, and emotionally open. Honor is not about placing him on a pedestal or pretending he is flawless. It is about creating an environment where he feels valued, respected, and seen. When a man walks into a home where he is acknowledged with kindness, spoken to with dignity, and treated like someone whose presence matters, something powerful awakens inside him. He softens. He opens. He becomes more generous because he feels safe to be himself. Honor becomes the emotional key that unlocks parts of his heart he often keeps hidden from the world. Out there, he may be battling expectations, responsibilities, and silent pressures he never fully expresses. But at home, in the warmth of a woman's honor, he finds the strength to love more deeply. A man who feels honored does not love because he is obligated, he loves because he is inspired. Honor feeds his emotional spirit. It tells him, you matter here, you belong here, your efforts are seen. This assurance creates a soft place within him where he can express affection freely without the fear of being judged, mocked, or dismissed. Because when a man feels respected, he naturally becomes more vulnerable in a healthy, intimate way. He allows his guard to come down. He communicates more. He listens more. He tries harder, not because he is forced to, but because he wants to nurture the place that nurtures him. Honor also builds emotional generosity. A man who feels valued gives more of his time, his attention, his softness, and his love. He becomes more patient, more engaged, and more responsible. He no longer feels like he is constantly proving himself. Instead, he feels supported. And support transforms behavior. When a woman honors her husband's strengths, he becomes more confident. When she speaks kindly about his efforts, he becomes more consistent. When she trusts his decisions, he becomes more thoughtful. When she expresses appreciation, he becomes more devoted. Honor encourages him to rise to his best self. On the other hand, when a man feels dishonored, when he feels belittled, criticized, mocked, or constantly corrected, he closes off. Dishonor does not make him change, it makes him retreat. It makes him emotionally sullen, physically distant, and mentally withdrawn. Not because he lacks love, but because he is trying to protect what little dignity he feels he has left. A man's heart opens in response to honor and shuts down in response to humiliation. And many relationships suffer not because love is missing, but because honor is. Honor does not ignore faults. It does not pretend everything is perfect. What it does is address issues with compassion rather than contempt. It says, I believe in you, even when pointing out something that hurts. It creates an emotional space where mistakes can be discussed without destroying the person. And when a man knows he can fail without being shamed, he develops the courage to try again, to improve, to communicate, to rebuild. Honor becomes a safe bridge that keeps two hearts connected even through difficult moments. Honor also strengthens intimacy. Emotional closeness thrives when both partners feel valued. A man who feels honored at home naturally becomes more attentive, more affectionate, more willing to express love in meaningful ways. He does not hesitate to reach out emotionally or physically. He feels free, not guarded. He feels connected, not pressured. Honor nourishes desire and deepens the bond between husband and wife, allowing intimacy to become not just an act, but a reflection of emotional comfort and trust. In truth, honor is not just something a woman gives, it is something she creates. A tone, a presence, a way of relating. It is in her words, her expressions, her reactions, her trust, and her gentleness. And the beauty of honor is that it does not only elevate the man, it elevates the marriage. It invites love to flow in both directions. Because when a man feels honored, he gives honor back. When he feels respected, he shows respect more consistently. When he feels valued, he pours value into the relationship. Honor becomes a cycle that strengthens not just the man, but the entire foundation of the home. When a man feels honored at home, he becomes the best version of himself. Not out of pressure, but out of love. He becomes more loving because love is easier to give when your heart feels safe. He becomes more giving because generosity is natural when appreciation is present. And he becomes more emotionally open because honor gives him the courage to let the walls fall and let his true heart be seen. A marriage thrives when both partners protect each other's dignity and emotional needs. This protection is not a duty forced upon them, but a natural expression of love, compassion, and emotional maturity. Dignity is the core of a person's self-worth. It is the quiet belief that I matter, I am valued, and I am safe here. When two people choose to honor each other's dignity, they create a relationship where both hearts can breathe freely. It becomes a home where neither partner fears humiliation, disrespect, or emotional neglect. Instead, they feel seen, appreciated, and supported. Protecting dignity means being careful with words, gentle with weaknesses, and mindful of how deeply actions can affect the person you love. It means remembering that even in moments of anger, the relationship is more important than winning an argument. Emotional needs are not signs of weakness. They are the inner scaffolding that keeps love standing. Men need respect, appreciation, and peace. Women need affection, connection, and understanding. When each partner recognizes the emotional landscape of the other, misunderstanding fades and harmony grows. Protecting emotional needs means learning how your partner feels loved and trying to give that love consistently. It means listening without interrupting, comforting without judging, and being present without distraction. In a world that often pulls both partners in different directions, a marriage becomes strong when it becomes a sanctuary, a place where both feel emotionally nourished and understood. When partners protect each other's dignity, conflict takes on a healthier shape. Disagreement no longer becomes a battleground for ego, but an opportunity for growth. Instead of attacking each other's character, they focus on resolving the issue. They learn to speak with care even in frustration, to correct without humiliating, and to express hurt without breaking each other's. They understand that words can either heal or wound, and they choose healing. This kind of emotional protection does not suppress honesty, it elevates it. It makes honesty safe because it is wrapped in compassion. And when honesty is safe, communication flows, trust deepens, and intimacy strengthens. Protecting dignity also means celebrating strengths and being gentle toward weaknesses. It means recognizing effort, not just pointing out faults. It means reassuring your spouse that their role, their presence, and their efforts truly matter. Small gestures, a kind word, a soft tone, an expression of gratitude become powerful acts of emotional nourishment. When both partners feel valued, they naturally give more love, more patience, and more understanding. Their connection becomes a cycle of mutual support rather than mutual frustration. A marriage thrives when neither partner feels alone. When each person knows that no matter how hard life becomes, their spouse is a place of comfort. Protecting emotional needs creates that assurance. It says, you don't have to hide your pain from me, and your feelings will not be dismissed here. This emotional safety allows both partners to open up without fear. Vulnerability becomes natural. Hearts become closer. Love becomes deeper because it rests on a foundation of compassion rather than fear. When both partners protect each other's dignity, trust grows effortlessly. Trust is not built by perfection, it is built by intention, by consistency, and by kindness. Every time a spouse chooses patience over anger, softness over harshness, understanding over judgment, they are saying, I choose you, I choose us. And these small choices accumulate into a marriage that feels steady, warm, and deeply connected. Ultimately, a marriage thrives not because two perfect people came together, but because two imperfect people decided to honor each other's humanity. They learn to treat each other's hearts. They learn the art of balancing accountability with gentleness. They learn that protecting dignity and emotional needs is not a burden. It is a beautiful expression of love. In such a marriage, peace becomes natural, trust becomes unshakable, and love becomes something that not only survives, but grows stronger with time.